So we are back at painting this one. So for this one, since it's a pretty simple rock, we'll do a pretty simple texture. So we left off with this fill layer, and I'm gonna reuse it and say base color. And what I'm gonna do with it is I want a different kind of base color. So let's aim for something a bit saturated, like this, but rather a bit dark, maybe a bit more saturated. Yeah, this is pretty fine for a base color. And I wanted to check my ambient occlusion because, well, there isn't any more or less. And that makes my process of this a bit easier. The next thing we want, definitely, is the edges. And I like to copy this layer by pressing Ctrl and D. And I'm gonna say edge and 01. And for the edges, of course, we want a bit of a lighter value. And add a black mask here, so we don't have the edges showing everywhere. Now, there's a bazillion ways of doing edges. The way I like doing it is actually adding a bitmap mask here that is made of thickness. And you can see this is a pretty weird one. So what I like doing is inverting the mask, and now we have something going. Now you can see I can play with these levels quite nicely. And it has that nice, just nice glow, pretty much. You can see it here. It has quite a nice glow to the rock. It's pretty cool looking, and I really like this kind of texture. So another thing is, I think I'm gonna go darker but more saturated. Same with this one, so just a bit. It looked too white for me, so I think this is a bit better. Maybe a bit more lighter. Something like this should be fine. Yep. And now you'll notice these are very soft and nice, going all over the place, and you might be compelled to say that this is finished, and well, for some styles definitely. But I want to make another copy of this, and I want to add a black mask, so that will negate everything we have made. And I'm gonna add a generator, and the generator is gonna be a simple curvature generator. And now this is gonna be pretty messy, so let's go into here and let's reduce the global balance quite some. And you'll see that these lines are a lot more they're a lot more sharper. So I like doing a bit of global blur, and you'll see why in a minute. Just a bit, and then when I add levels to this, I can thin out the lines that way. You can see now they're pretty thin. And by thinning out these lines, like they went from this to this just by adding the blur, because it blurs them and gets them a bit of a weird look, and then we can clamp it down and have it be more sharp. And now, as you can see, we have quite sharp lines here, and we can also mess around with this. No, this, and I'm liking this result quite nicely. Yep. This is a pretty nice, simple rock, so I think the edges are done here. So I'm gonna go edge, just make a folder for it, and just make both of these. Put this one on top as it was there. Now we need some paint layers because this is way too simplistic in my opinion. So I'm gonna copy the base color and say paint layer 1, And now I'm gonna add another black mask, and I'm gonna change this to a different color. Something like this. Now, the main thing here is adding a fill and then finding a cool grunge map. That is more or less bread and butter of this. And let's say I like this one. It does look pretty nice. Let's see it. One thing I would like to do, because we have these seams and everything, it could be good to do triplanar projection, because then the seams don't really matter. It will project it either way, and there are no cutoffs. And then we can balance, we can switch around with this. We can maybe lower the tiling so this is a bit bigger. And there we go. That's pretty good. I want these to be a bit more like this, let's say. And then I'm gonna add a filter with a blur slope, basically. And put... Now, this is about playing around with the intensity. It depends on what kind of style you're looking for. But something like this that is very subtle in this way is quite good. And now we can do the same. Grunge spot. I want grunge, I think 04 works nicely. There we go, we have more stuff. But now we want a bit of a different hue to this, you know? We don't want only one type of coloring, we want a few of them. Also, this triplanar, pretty good. I'm gonna say 1 maybe? Yeah, better, definitely better. Another thing we can do here in this one is, let's say we want now an orange-ish hue, and we can probably use a moisture noise as well. But another thing you can do is just randomize the seed. That's kind of like the easy way out of this, pretty much. Looks pretty cool. It's just randomized until you see what you like, basically. Another thing I like doing is adding a bit more of some wild colors, some that you might not expect being there, basically. So I'm just gonna again randomize. You can always play with the balance as well. And now we can just lower this to the point where it's really, really subtle. It's adding quite a lot of cool little detail here and there. So now what I like doing is I copy the base color and I'm just gonna put it above everything here, and you'll see, well, we just negated everything below us. So we want to reduce the roughness here, and we want to put this to something like 40. This could be anything, but this is just to kind of blur all of these colors together, sort of, to make them feel a bit more coherent. I think these are too small, so I'm just gonna do tiling for all of them, a bit more randomized, a bit more fun. So maybe this one as well, 0.6. Yep, there we go. And we can try different colors as well, like this could work well, maybe even some greenish. It depends on what you're really going for, but just test stuff out and something will come up definitely. So this is a very, very simple rock, if you ask me, and there is not much to be done with it. That's the main problem. But the next one we make will be a bit more complicated, and so will the textures of it. So that's why I'm kind of going incrementally a bit, because stuff can get complicated really quickly, and I want to reintroduce stuff a little bit easier to use, so you can understand it way better. And that way you can just build up your knowledge instead of just being dropped into the waters not knowing anything. So this is pretty much done. I think I liked the bluish quite nicely. Oh, something like this. Something like this does give me nice interest. Although I do want it bigger, I don't know why. So let's do 0.2. Maybe the balance is the problem. Let's see now. If I go back to M, let's randomize. Maybe 0.5, 1.15, sorry. Oh, I'll be damned. This is quite big. But it does look quite nice. And if I put this a bit more subtly to like 20. This brings the colors nicely. And maybe putting this to 60. Yeah, this is now very, very subtle. Yep. It's all about finding the balance and playing around with all these values. But yeah, I'm just gonna quickly touch on roughness, just so you're not a complete beginner when we go into a bit more interesting part of roughness. So if we go to, this is the roughness map, okay. So what I like doing with the edges is sometimes I like to make them shiny. Now this really depends on what you're doing, really. But making the edges completely black on the roughness map gives them a little bit of that shine. But maybe not completely black, maybe 0.3 is a bit better. Just a little bit of a shine to them. But that is not like the main problem we have here. The main problem we have is this is way too flat. And how we did that is by basically having only one roughness value on all of these. And how we change that is by, well, iterating the roughness values. So placing like 0.4, maybe here 0.5. Maybe on this one I play 0.7, so a bit harder. And then in the last one, 0.55. It's just, you can see it already has a different roughness map. And you can see how with a little bit of it, we're adding that shine here and there. We're adding extra detail just with the roughness map. And this is, again, completely subjective to what you're looking to create and where you're going to put these rocks in. But roughness values are basically one of the most important maps and one of the most important maps to iterate on. So you can see how much detail we've created only with the roughness map. This is nothing, this is no base color or anything, this is just roughness. So that is pretty cool. I'm just gonna add one last thing here. And that thing is going to be called a roughness layer. And a roughness layer, you guessed it, will have only roughness on it. And for now, just to debug, I'll get it completely 0, so it's plasticky. And I'm gonna add a roughness mask, and we will be wanting to choose a cool looking grunge map. So grunge, something with a lot of detail, something with a lot of values. This is kind of cool. Okay, so let's put this for starters. So, not that. Right click and add a fill, and we can put this in. And you can definitely see how that works. So I'm gonna do triplanar as for everything. And now if I go to roughness, you can see that this one affects the roughness quite heavily. And we can change that by going up or down. And I like doing maybe 0.35, let's change. And we can also do tiling too. And if I go to the material view now, yeah, you can see how much extra detail we have added with this one. Just a tiny bit. It adds, that's quite a cool effect here. But again, when it comes to simple rocks, there isn't much to do about them. It's mostly about messing with the paint layers and the colors, and then adding some roughness to just add that detail. You can see that, yeah. So I'm gonna finish this video right here, and we'll move on to sculpting some more complicated rocks next, so we know what to do. We have went over this part very quickly. This is a very simple rock. We'll dive into much more complicated stuff very soon. So be prepared, but it's also very gradual how you will improve. So don't worry about it. It's gonna be pretty simple and easy either way. So see you in the next one.